Welcome back to another weekly analysis video. This analysis is for the week of December 28th, 2025. As always, we'll start off with a review of last week's price action and then move into the analysis for the upcoming week. First and foremost, it is Christmas Day, so Merry Christmas. So last week, which is here, starting Monday, December 22nd, Tuesday the 23rd, and then Christmas Eve, Wednesday the 24th. We did what I said we would, which was hardly anything at all. We moved a little higher, like I wanted to, into this consolidation in here, which we'll look at on an hourly and 15-minute chart. And I had talked about the completion of a market maker buy model with the rate of these highs up here. That's what I'd have liked to have seen, but given that it's the end of the year, volume dies down and probabilities become very low for anything to really happen. I wasn't expecting a whole lot, and we didn't get a whole lot. We did move higher, but not like we have in recent months, put it that way, with big candles, large movements, etc. So, and again, that's because it's the end of the year, volume dies down, and probabilities lower. So, to recap, we really did nothing at all. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the hourly chart and get a closer view of this consolidation and the movement towards that consolidation in there. Alright, now on to our hourly chart here. Market just opened up for pre-market about 50 minutes ago. Here we have the open here at Sunday, December 21st, 1800. And we gapped up initially from the open. Alright, now I had said that price could come back down into this area in here, and then I wanted to see it repel away from that higher into this area in here, which is within this consolidation. Now I would like to see the completion of the market maker buy model with the rate of the buy side liquidity here of this consolidation. Okay, so we're still not done going higher in the short term. I do believe that it will reach up into here. Some obstacles to overcome would be the middle of this range here and then the upper portion of that range there, so we could see it repel away from here and never even see the buy side liquidity tapped into above these highs in here. And that would still be a market maker buy model. It's just that the highs were not rated here. In these market maker buy and sell models, ICT has clearly stated that it never has to raid the buy or sell side liquidity of the original consolidation. Okay, and I've seen that many times where it doesn't do that. So still low probability conditions to where it could just easily come back into this range in here, which we've been working around for the majority of December and late November. Okay, short-term bullishness still with more or less a neutral standpoint on the market. Okay, but again, the gap open, the consolidation, and then a push higher going into Christmas Eve. We were closed all day Christmas, and the market just opened 50 minutes ago for pre-market. So this is where we're at now, in the middle of this range, so we'll gauge how we react from here. But the week that we're currently talking about now, again, not a whole lot of action occurred reaching this consolidation. Still looking for potentially higher prices. Alright, and here we have our 15-minute chart where we see a bit of a more refined view. So we have the gap open here, and again, notice how it gapped higher. It left that gap open initially, and then it came back down into that gap in here. Now, just by eyeballing this is roughly, it came back into the stop run area of the 25,515 level, which 81 points from here. So 515 plus 81, and then plus 81 onto that number there. And you get the stop run area here, which the gap was in confluence with that. Came in, filled some of the gap, and rallied away. Now that's actually very clean price action. That's actually what it's meant to do. Notice the deep retracement that it had. Came right back down into that area again. A little bit of a deep retracement, more than I'd like to see, but it is permissible. And then the rally higher, coming into 25,758. And now we're in the middle of this range in here. And so the next objective would be 26,001. And ultimately these highs, we might get it by Friday. I believe the markets close at noon or 1 p.m. on Friday. So I'm not really anticipating a whole lot going into the end of the week. So I'll record the analysis after the week officially closes. But for the most part, I believe price is done doing what it's going to do for the week. If we happen to climb higher into this consolidation, into 26,001 and beyond these highs, that would just be a bonus. Reaching this objective here in the midpoint, that is enough for me. I'm content with that. The rest is just a bonus, as I've mentioned. So with that being said, after the close of the week on Friday, which again will be around noon or 1 p.m., I believe it's 1 p.m., I'll go ahead and record the remainder of this video analysis. Alright, we're back on our daily chart here for the weekly analysis for the week of December 28th, 2025. We actually had a full day on Friday. I thought we were going to close early at around noon or 1 p.m., but we had a full trading day, so we closed at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are in the last week of 2025. The year has flown by pretty quickly, in my opinion. So with that being said, let's go ahead and analyze what should happen for next week. And again, we're still in a neutral bias with a slightly bullish undertone. That's what I am still seeing here. So from this area in here, if it were to propel higher and raid these buy stops here and perhaps even target these highs back here, I'd prefer it to remain in this area in here, going no lower than that line there, and then propelling higher. Ideally, it stays where it's at and then proceeds to move higher, targeting these highs, completing the market maker buy model. Because we're in the end of the year, and even going into the new year of 2026, the volume is still low. It doesn't pick back up until really the end of January into February for moves and higher probability conditions to be had and to be sustained. So in the beginning of the year, we're still going to be in low probability conditions. You can still day trade. It's just the signatures that I look for personally, they don't always happen in these times of year. In the time of year we're in now, the end of the year and the beginning of the year, they don't always pan out as I'd like to see. So with that being said, again, we have a neutral bias and a bullish undertone still. So let's go ahead and move on into the hourly chart. Alright, we're here on the hourly chart here, and I want to draw your attention to this consolidation here. This looks like it wants to target the highs in here. I would not be surprised if it stopped at 26,001, repelled away from that to the downside, and then made an attempt to take out those highs. That's what I'd like to see, but because we are in the conditions that we're in, meaning low probability, meaning the signatures that I would usually look for and usually would occur, typically the market doesn't abide by those, and does things it shouldn't. Put it that way. Okay, I've emphasized that for the last 4 or 5 weeks. We've still been somewhat accurate on our analysis for the most part. It's just something that I always keep in mind this time of year. So again, it looks like we're going to complete the market maker buy model, and it could technically still be completed even if it were to stop here. It doesn't always have to raid the original consolidation, which is highlighted here in the green box. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the 15-minute chart and wrap up. And onto my 15-minute chart. I'm a bit zoomed out right now. We're going to go ahead and zoom in a little further into price action here. So Friday, we spent pretty much the entire day, for the most part, consolidating, not really doing a whole lot. We're in the middle of this range in here. What I'd ideally like to see is not really come out of the middle of this. If it does come out of the middle of this, I want to see it to the upside and target 26,001. If it breaks down lower, okay, these lows could be a target for that coming into 25,758, or pretty close to it, maybe even sweeping that area. But I would then want to see it, if it were to come down to this level in here, I would then want to see it repel away from that to the upside and then seek out 26,001 and higher prices over here. Okay? So it's just a matter of weighing things out. And again, we're going into the end of the year. Low probability conditions. Okay? Neutral bias with a slight bullish undertone. Okay? So with that being said, that's going to conclude the weekly analysis for the week of December 28th, 2025. I believe Thursday is New Year's Day, January 1st. Let me check that. Yes, Thursday, January 1st is New Year's Day. So Happy New Year to those watching. And thank you for staying with me this year. And as always, take care and God bless.